afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You excuse our time gap. The film we are going to talk about was shown in the afternoon, and I see a lot of new faces. But we try to be as clear as possible. And in the same time, the film is already guiding over, making a transition to the film shown afterward, because Cedric's films, which is called This Life Is Not Ours, was shot in the same places in Bangkok as Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love. I don't know if everybody of you know that In the Mood for Love was only partially shot in Hong Kong, and in fact Wong Kar-wai looked for a surrounding that would be as nostalgic as he wanted it to be, and found it in Bangkok, in the neighborhood where Cedric also found a very nostalgic, a very old ritual of offering a cinema to the ghosts. There is, in Thailand, a Taoistic tradition, there is a ritual to give to the ghosts a screening of a movie. And Cedric, I am very happy to talk to you, and I would like you to explain a little bit what kind of a tradition that is, how you came in contact with it, and why you made a film about it.
Of course. Okay. Should I wait for all these people to come in, or I'll carry on? Okay. So basically, I'm a filmmaker, and originally I moved to Bangkok 20-something years ago as a photojournalist. And I actually first encountered these screenings back then, 20 years ago. And I found it extremely curious because there was no audience. So I started speaking to the projectionists and to the shrine keepers, and they explained to me that these screenings were actually for the spirits, and more precisely for the 8 immortals of Taoism. So many of you were probably not here this afternoon, didn't see the film, but the opening sequence is a series of shots where you see traditional Chinese performance projected on a screen in different places, on a rooftop, which is actually Bangkok Kunsthalle, also 2 streets, and then in a shrine. And that is the 8 immortals of Taoism performing. And the reason why the projectionists show this is that because afterwards, that negotiation with the spirits is done, then they choose whatever films they want. Meaning, it can be a Hollywood blockbuster, it can be a Chinese kung fu epic, it can be anything at all. And that's what really intrigued me. That was just the beginning of it.
In fact, in your film, we can see Superman.
Yes. There's Superman, there's Black Hawk Down, there's a zombie movie called World War Z, Face Off, you name it, it's all there.
And no public whatsoever. In the film you can see these screens showing very strange films in a very damaged copy, and no public at all. So there is never public at these screenings?
Actually, historically there were. And what happened is, so basically the best way to describe it is that it's the poor man's Chinese opera. So to hire a Chinese opera troupe is extremely expensive because you have the musicians, you have the performers, you have the costumes, you have the food, all the kids show up. Like, it's very, very expensive to do. That's a very public affair where a patriarch of a neighborhood will actually make a big show of it. Their name is going to be spoken everywhere. But somehow, we don't really know exactly when this started, but at some point, a cheaper version of dealing with the same spirits happened, and that's screening for the spirits instead. And to make it even cheaper, that's at least my interpretation of why there are no seats, no announcements in the neighborhood, etc. They basically made it for the spirits only. But imagine 60, 70 years ago, when there was no cable TV, there was no Netflix, certainly not, people would gather as an inadvertent audience. But then when cable TV came in, so they would bring their own chairs, their own snacks, all their friends would come, but then of course cable TV comes in, and DVDs, and all types of home entertainment. So the inadvertent audience disappears, and then the tradition gets handed back to the original intended audience, the spirits. That's what happened, basically. So that's why there's very few people there.
And do you think the tradition is it's now in danger because there are all these other possibilities of entertainment?
That's a twofold thing, because so what I captured was the end of 35mm projections, because now it's all digital. And the reason why you saw so many scratches and so much damage is because they're all hand-me-downs from commercial cinemas. And sometimes you see horizontal scratches and vertical scratches because they come from platter systems, the big commercial cinemas, and of course the smaller vertical projectors. I think to a certain degree in some places it might get revived, because I'm in love with those scratches, but I don't think the local audience enjoys a super damaged film with optical sound that sounds terrible because that's also scratched.
In fact, the 35mm film print is kind of a hero of your movie, because you can see all the scratches. You stage them as fireworks, very colorful. How did you do it technically?
So that section, for those of you who were here, it morphs from an extremely damaged film print of a Chinese martial arts film. And then it goes into a very abstract sequence. And that abstract sequence was basically created this way. Between each image, when you look at a 35mm print, there's a black frame. And I reproduced all the black frames, thousands of them, and then animated them in post. And that's how...
Reproduced how?
Photographs, like stop motion animation, basically. And that whole 2.5-minute sequence is just that, just the black frames. But the black frames are damaged as well because the whole film print is damaged. And that's what created this kind of fireworks effect. Yeah.
We have, during the festival till now, we have seen several old technologies of producing virtuality, starting with the dioramas of the Amisekel film and through all different kinds, which were not digital, completely analog. And I think with this long dolly shot at the beginning to the projector and staging of the film print in your film, you are also kind of saying goodbye to a very old and very beloved technology of producing virtuality in an analog way. Is it true?
Probably inadvertently. I don't think I thought of that while I was actually shooting those particular shots. Although those two opening shots are the two only really staged shots, because they were done on the rooftop of Bangkok Kunsthalle, which the kind help of Stefano. Because I told him, when I showed him all my other footage, that I really wanted something that set the projector as this kind of character, maybe like a spirit medium or something, that I wanted us to have the time to engage with it. Because in the street or in the shrines, it's very impractical, very messy, very difficult to operate because there's things in the way everywhere. So I really wanted to create this introduction to it. I don't know if it was thinking so much about virtuality, but it certainly was thinking about liminal space, for sure, about the representation. Much like that abstract sequence is about liminality, because it's between the actual optical images. It's supposed to be dead space, but I used it in the film to
You mean
bring those black frames that I animated.
Black frames.
Yeah.
But there's also liminal space in the audience, which is not existent, because we must imagine ghosts looking at those films. And we can see, in your movie, we can see several times cats wandering around. Are they a symbol of these ghosts, which we cannot perceive?
The neighborhood in question by the river is called Talat Noi, and it's in the greater neighborhood of Chalongkrung, which connects to the Wong Kar Wai connection, actually. There's a huge number of stray cats there. It's that simple. And I live there, I love cats, and I just, fed them. And during the pandemic, a lot of this was shot during the pandemic, actually, a very weird and lonely time where I spent a lot of the time in the streets. And I basically, encountered many cats, and they ended up in the film, And they're also an inadvertent audience. They're often very close to the shrines and sometimes watching the films.
Yeah. So if you are already in this neighborhood of Bangkok, where the In Mood for Love was shot, and we must say, if we look at your movie, we can see the colors of Christopher Doyle. We can see all this green and red.
That's a big compliment, thank you.
Burnt orange. Was it an influence for you? Christopher Doyle is the famous cinematographer of Wong Kar Wai.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, to a certain degree, yes. There's two main influences from Asian cinema for me that connect to this film. One, yes, obviously In the Mood for Love because of the neighborhood and the lighting and how it looks, but also the Taiwanese new wave film Goodbye Dragon Inn by Tsai Ming Liang, which actually is about a dying cinema as well. And there is, in the introduction shot, in the rain, a cat scene as well. So that, for me, is probably the biggest parallel. Of course, the neighborhood speaks to In the Mood for Love. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting Christopher Doyle back in 2006, so just a few years after he shot it. And in an interview, he explained how it was shot. And I highly recommend everyone search this on YouTube, In the Mood for Doyle. It's a fantastic documentary. It's not high res or whatever, but you'll find it. It's wonderful, and it's about how he worked with Wong Kar-wai. And he explains that scene in the location, which sadly is no longer accessible because it's turning into a luxury hotel now. It's right behind the French embassy. It used to be the customs house, then it became a fire station, and then it was abandoned for a long time because many different hotel groups wanted to take it, from Amman to others, and now I don't know which one, but some luxury hotel group has taken it over. So that, I don't know if they're going to try and create a In the Mood for Love bar or something in that hotel, but I'm guessing they will.
It will be artificial. But speaking about Bangkok and also dying traditions, we know Wong Kar-wai came to Bangkok because he couldn't find this nostalgia in Hong Kong, and Bangkok is surely very much changing now. And we had also this other film in the festival about Manchester changing a lot and people looking for the old feeling inside the city. Was it also a motivation for you to shoot in Bangkok?
Hugely so, because I lived in that neighborhood for close to 15 years, and I actually just left 8 months ago because of insane gentrification. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like a goodbye love letter to my favorite neighborhood that I've loved for so long. It doesn't mean it's completely dying. Those little alleyways by the river where the screenings happen are still quite authentic at night, but the greater neighborhood has changed.
It still looks quite derelict.
It kind of is still. It's not a rich neighborhood, but it's gentrifying at the speed of light. So it's changing really, really quickly.
Okay, I would like to open for those who have seen the film. Maybe there are some questions in the public.
Seeing as next year's theme is going to be music related, my question is about the really spectacular music in the film.
Score, yes.
And how that came about, because it just put me into this kind of trance. It was incredible. I really, really enjoyed that part as much as the visuals.
So the music more is okay. So it's inspired by a piece by Ravel, actually. It's inspired by Le Gibet, which is the second movement of Gaspard de la Nuit, but super simplified, just like this B-flat octave that I worked with. It kept ringing in my head as I was walking the streets, looking for interesting stuff to shoot during the pandemic, and I decided to put it in there as a theme that came back. Of course, then there's that bombastic Hollywood sequence, which had to be as big as it was musically because it's Hollywood. So, but I don't know if I'm answering your question, am I?
Before you confessed to me that you would have liked it to be louder.
Yes, I wanted it to be louder. Yeah.
But you see, it came over as completely adequate.
All good?
Any other questions?
No. We don't have time for it.
So,
Thanks, everyone.